Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. A heaven, and you'll see into your imagination.
I'll find you, you son of a bitch. It was 1:15 a.m. To say that it was a late one would be an understatement. For the last 2 months, I've had quite my fair share of them. Who the hell could blame me though? How can I sleep while he's still out there? Someone who could murder children so monstrously and then taunt the victim's loved ones in such an unusually cruel way. The word psychopath would not do him justice. I mean, a man inspired by a children's character murdering children? Does it get any sicker than that? My name is William Henderklunk. I am a homicide detective with 13 years of experience, but I have never experienced anything like this. Pootersville, South Carolina isn't exactly known for being crime-free, but as far as I could tell, we were serial killer-free. At least, I thought we were. The case was opened a couple months ago when parents started reporting their children missing. We took it seriously, but it wasn't until a body was reported floating in the marsh just outside of town. The body belonged to a little 11-year-old girl. All the bones in her body had been smashed, and her head had been completely squashed in. Lying on top of her was a golden ticket. Written on the front side of the ticket were the words, "She was a bad egg." On the back side of the ticket was a little rhyme. Oompa loompa doompa dee ditch. Little Susie, she was a bitch. Oompa loompa doompa dee dice. She ate all my candy, that wasn't nice. What do you get when your parents are rich? Spending all their money on this spoiled girl's shit. What do you get when I see everything? What exactly do you think that means? I think you all need to die. It continued for a couple more lines. Around the area, we found 4 sets of footprints. One set belongs to a big individual, wearing size 12 boots. The other 3 seemed to be much smaller, more than likely belonging to individuals of the midget variety. Needless to say, with all these specific characteristics of the murders, including the fact he was known to lure his victims with a trail of chocolate bars, this led to him being nicknamed Willy Wonka. This case has been so damaging to my psyche. I'm depressed, antisocial, and I hardly sleep anymore. The case is even taking a toll on my relationships. I used to make love to my wife's voluptuous body as if it was my birthday every day. But now, I haven't busted a nut in what feels like an eternity. We actually had a fight the other day, which seems to be the routine for us now. I don't think Clarissa has any idea what a case like this is really like. You're losing it, William! She screamed while throwing the gift plate that my dead grandma got me at my head. Really? Is it losing it to care about stopping a child murderer? If that's so, then I'm the nuttiest chocolate bar around. It's my duty to arrest Willy Wonka before... She cut me off. Oh, Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka, Willy Wonka, she said in a loud, mocking voice. I'm tired of hearing about goddamn Willy Wonka and his goddamn band of child-murdering Oompa Loompas. And you don't think I am too? I snapped back. Clarissa, I am sick to death of it all. The fights, the not sleeping, the dying children, the rhymes, the chocolate, and the fucking golden tickets. I know, Will. I just miss you. I miss us. Ever since this case started, I don't see you much. I feel so cut off from you, like we're not connected. It's not just me. Your daughter needs you too. She needs her daddy. She can't grow up in a world like this. It feels like Wonka's world, and we're simply living in it. I stared at her for a couple seconds before I said, until I catch this imposter of Willy Wonka, I'm afraid we are. On that note, I left for work. Fast forward a couple of days to where I started the story off. My partner, Detective Lucas Ricardo, had just left a couple minutes ago, but of course we had a fight too. I just feel like he doesn't take any of this seriously. As if Willy Wonka, midgets, and fat chocolate-eating kids were something to find funny. It went something like this. Still looking at that Augustus Gloop case file? Lucas asked. You think this is funny? Just because the kid was fat, German, and died from being drowned in melted chocolate does not mean he was Augustus Gloop, I yelled, almost tearing up. Relax, man, I didn't mean anything by it. I just thought I'd lighten the mood a bit. Well, it didn't lighten the mood for Augustus Gloop. Fuck! I mean little Bruno did it. Calm down. This case is driving you around the bend. He looked at me, very concerned. I think you need to go home and get some sleep before you do something Oh, I see, I interrupted. I'm just little innocent Charlie Buckets. And you're good old Grandpa Joe. Making snide comments at the downfall of the children. All they need is a good kick in the pants, am I right, Grandpa? What the fuck are you talking about? At this point, my partner could not have looked more confused. Well, I'm glad you can walk now, but those kids will never again. Please tell me, what in God's name are you going on about? He was looking very fearful now. You know what? I think it's time to get back into bed, Grandpa Joe. I lunged at Lucas and put him in a headlock as he let out a gasp. What? Stop! What is wrong with you? Go to sleep, Grandpa Joe. Go to sleep. I want to see that twinkle leave your eye. Lucas sent an elbow flying into my gut, and I let go of my hold around his neck. As I was recovering from the first blow, he sent a left hook flying into my face. I proceeded to fall to the floor. He looked at me. There was so much sadness, anger, and fear in his face. I immediately snapped back to reality, realizing what I had just done. I don't know what the fuck has happened over these last 2 months to make you this mental, but you need to listen. I could see now he was crying. I love you, man. You're like a brother to me. I thought our bond was thicker than that of an everlasting gobstopper, but apparently you just see me as Grandpa Joe. If Willy Wonka can do this to you and cause you to drive a wedge between everyone you love, then maybe you're the one who is Grandpa Joe. Goodbye, Will. He left the room without so much as a second glance back. What have I done? I choked out my own friend and called him Grandpa Joe. Maybe I really am going insane. It's as if Willy Wonka has me trapped on his boat and I'm doomed to watch a chicken's head being cut off forever. The references keep running throughout my mind. I've been watching both Willy Wonka movies excessively, looking for clues that might crack this case. The killer makes reference to the chocolate factory on his golden tickets. But what could he possibly mean by that? It's gotta be his area of operations. Naturally, if I find the chocolate factory, then I'll find that bastard Willy Wonka. It happened a couple of minutes later. The intercoms throughout the building started playing familiar music.
Willy Wonka, the amazing chocolatier. Willy Wonka, fills your mind and soul with fear. He's clean, evasive, and so smart there's no way to explain it. Leaves a trail of disemboweled kiddies, still there's no way to contain him. I recognize this as the song the animatronics sing in the remake. Clearly he doesn't discriminate with the two movies. There's room in his heart for both. All of a sudden, the door to my office opened, and in emerged a pink ski-masked man with a red and white striped jacket. He had black dress pants to go with the jacket. The figure moved towards me while tossing toffees and chocolate kisses into the air. Who the fuck are you? I yelled at this strange individual. Are you Willy? He said nothing, so I continued yelling. God damn you, candy fiend! Answer me! Are you Willy Wonka? After a couple of seconds, he gave a light-hearted chuckle and spoke. Of course not, dear boy. I am merely a messenger for the great Wonka. I sing his praises and convey important information when His Excellency can't himself. The greatest chocolatier who ever lived is bound to be busy now and again. He seemed so chipper and informative while saying all of this. The contrast between the seriousness of the situation and his tone of voice truly frightened me. It's as if he was innocently trying to sell me a candy bar. Out of fear and frustration, I responded, "Why is he doing all of this? And why did that piece of shit send you here?" My voice started to crack. "Tell me why!" Even with a mask on, you could tell he was smiling. "My dear boy, do you ask a fish why it swims? Or a bird why it flies?" He paused as if he was awaiting a response. "No, sirree, you don't. They do it because they were born to do it. Just like Willy Wonka was born to be a candy man, and you look like you were born to be a dead man." Right then, he pulled out an old medieval sword from behind his back. It looked like Excalibur. In fact, he raised it as if he had just pulled Excalibur from the stone. He charged at me and swung it. I dived under my desk, narrowly missing it as it instead smashed into a lamp. I peeked my head up just in time to see him dancing around and singing another familiar tune. "Who can take a piggy, slice his head in two, cover it in chocolate and perhaps my own shit too." After that line, he swung the sword down, splitting my desk in two. I barreled out of the way, but in doing so, hit my head on the wall. This caused me to start seeing stars for a couple of seconds. "The Candyman! The Candyman can!" This time, he threw the sword in an attempt to spear me. I thought my time was up, but it hit the wall a mere 3 inches away from my head. He jumped over the trash desk and yanked the sword out of the wall. I was crawling into a corner as I looked up at this jolly madman. Slowly, he was dancing over to me, getting ready to plunge his magnificent sword into my body. "The Candyman can, 'cause he hates your filthy guts and wants the world." Before he could finish his last line, I had removed the gun from my holster and shot him in the stomach. He dropped his sword behind him as he fell to the floor shaking. I got up and pointed the revolver at his pink head. "Don't die yet, you happy little singing bitch!" I jabbed one of his eyes with the revolver. "Why did Wonka send you after me?" He spoke, but it was obvious that he was in agony. "We were trying to do you a favor. Wonka thought you didn't want to be there to see the next winner of the golden ticket." I responded urgently to this. "What? Who is the next winner of the golden ticket? Tell me or I'll shoot you in the nuts." He laughed, but his laugh turned into a cough. "The one who will be taken to his glorious chocolate factory. Such wonders shall see inside." "She? Oh God. My daughter, Mary. I haven't seen her since yesterday. Could Willy Wonka have my daughter in his chocolatey clutches?" The masked man looked at me as if somehow he knew what I was thinking and nodded slowly. "She's going to make friends with all the Oompa Loompas. I'm sure they already have a lovely song made for her." "Where is she?" I demanded. "Where is my daughter?" "We tried to help you, dear boy, but now you're going to have front row seats to her grand prize." "Shut up," I snarled. "A lifetime supply of chocolate." "Shut your ass up." "Perhaps even a scrum-diddly-umptious bar." "I won't say it again. Shut the fuck up." "And if you're a very good boy, perhaps you can share." "Charlie Buckets." I blew his brains all over the wall before he could utter another word. What have I done, though? I killed the man who knew where my daughter was being held captive. Without him, I had no leads. Still, I had to call my partner and tell him what just happened, even if he was still mad over the Grandpa Joe stuff.
I took out my phone and dialed Lucas's number. Come on, pick up the damn phone. It rang, but nobody picked up, so I decided to leave a message. I just got attacked by one of Wonka's goons, but it's fine now. I painted the office with his brain matter. That's not important though. He has my daughter, so I have to find the factory tonight. There's no way I can do it without my partner though. I know things got crazy back there, but that wasn't me, Lucas. It was Wonka. He's gotten in my head. All I can think of is his purple suit, probably covered in blood and chocolate. You're right though. I was the one acting like Grandpa Joe. But I need you. You're my Charlie in a world full of Slugworths. I ended the voicemail there, due to the fact I heard a sound coming from outside of my office. My heart started to beat rapidly. I crept over to the door and popped my head around both corners. At first, I saw nothing. Then I heard scuffling and turned quickly towards the middle of the room. Standing there, smiling sinisterly, was an orange midget in a brown shirt with white overalls. I was face to face with one of the dreaded Oompa Loompas. All of a sudden, I felt a pain engulf the back of my head as I fell to the ground, with the world around me becoming darkness. When I awoke, I was strapped to a chair. I looked around, but it was too dark to make anything out. Hello? Where am I? I yelled, but there was no response. I heard some noises that sounded like they were coming from below me though. While sweating profusely, I wondered what kind of trouble I had gotten myself into. The lights switched on, and at last I could see where I was located. It was a giant run-down factory, but it was made to look like the candy room from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, at least to the best of its ability. I was suspended in a giant glass elevator, hanging 110 feet up in the air. That's when I saw them. Mary and Clarissa were both here. Mary was hanging upside down over a taffy pulling machine, much like the one used on Mike TV, but instead of being tall and silly, I imagine her fate would be much worse. Then I turned to see Clarissa, stuck in a tube, similarly to Augustus Gloop in the movie. I swear I'll get you girls out of this, I shouted at the top of my lungs, causing the glass elevator to vibrate. Willy Wonka will pay. Oh, I will I? A peculiar voice said out of nowhere. Down at the entrance of the room was a red carpet. There, walking very slowly, was a man in a purple suit with a cane and a matching purple top hat. It was the notorious Willy Wonka. Following behind him were 3 Oompa Loompas, carrying cans of fizzy lifting drinks. At the end of the carpet, he stopped to do a somersault. Will the scene references ever end with this maniac? So much time and so little to kill! Stop! Reverse that! Willy Wonka laughed like this was the funniest thing he had ever heard. I, on the other hand, have had enough of this. You sick fuck! Why? How could you commit such godless atrocities? You mustn't mumble. It makes it very difficult to hear you. He said before he laughed his ass off again. Oh, all right. You really want to know? It's because children are awful. All they do is whine and complain. Oh, Mummy, I want more candy. Oh, Daddy, I want more money. Where? I want a Minions plush toy. Give me presents, give me toys. Well, I say give me dead girls and boys. It's never enough. You think they think about what it's like to be an adult? No, they don't. They think we'll just sit there and take it like good little ATM machines, and that we won't go wild like the greatest child punisher of all time, Willy Wonka. I couldn't believe that this was his explanation, but I still decided to question him further. Perhaps I could change his deranged mind. Sure, kids can be brats, but not all kids are awful. He stood there quietly for a second before speaking. I think you're awful, Will. Really? How the fuck am I awful? At this point, I was definitely confused. You don't remember me, Will, do you? A long time ago, when you were just a child, I asked you for a little change. I was so goddamn hungry, and I just wanted a chocolate bar since I had never had one before, and they sounded magical. You know what you did? His tone became angry. You spat in my face and sang, poor kid, no chocolate for the poor kid. Then you ran off and stuffed your face in all the Three Musketeers and Hershey bars your parents had bought you. You're just like the rest of them, Will. You're no Charlie Buckets. Maybe I was a jerk, but leave Mary and Clarissa out of this, I pleaded. After this, he began to smirk. How about a joke, Will? No, I've had just about enough of your jokes. I really was tired of this weirdness. What do you get when you cross the world's greatest chocolatier with children who take all his candy and treat him like 100% unsweetened chocolate? I'll tell you what you get. He stopped for a long, dramatic pause before yelling, You get nothing! The great glass elevator started to move. One of the Oompa Loompas was operating the crane that the elevator was attached to. They were gearing up to drop me. I was going to meet my glass-shattering end. Not if I can help it, Grandpa Joe, came a familiar voice from the entrance. It was my partner, Lucas. He arrived just in time. With perfect aim, he shot the fizzy lifting drink cans, causing them to burst onto the two Oompa Loompas. They were carried upwards, where they were sliced into tiny bits by the giant fans on the ceilings. Blood and organs showered the candy room. Perhaps our guest likes his chocolate hot, laughed Willy Wonka. The remaining Oompa Loompa pressed a button, and out of the wall popped another large tube. It started to dispense boiling chocolate all over Lucas. He screamed in torturous pain as his skin melted off in delicious, hot chocolatey goodness. This is more than I could take. Not my best friend, too. I ripped out of the rope tied around my hands. Kicking open the glass door with a shatter, I jumped over to the platform where the remaining Oompa Loompa was standing. Grabbing him, I said, Let's not stretch this situation out any further. I hurled him over the ledge into the taffy puller. It pulled him apart in such unnatural ways, stretching him, breaking him, his limbs being ripped off as well. It took a very little amount of time until he was dead. You're next, Wonka. I think not, Will. I kicked a candy ball at him, causing him to fall on his ass. When I caught up to him, I threw him to the ground. He looked up at me and smiled. You know what happened to the little boy who got everything he ever wanted? What? I asked. He lived to die another day. The glass elevator finally broke free from the ceiling. We were both under it, so I barrel rolled out of the way. The elevator hit the ground, and with an ear-piercing smash, it buried Wonka beneath it. The rest of the factory was starting to collapse as well. I broke my wife out of the tube. Then, with a giant nerd rope hanging from the ceiling, I swung like Tarzan over the taffy puller and grabbed my daughter. We made it out of the building just as it all turned to rubble. We thought the trouble was over, but there was also a sense that this was only the beginning. They never found Wonka's body in the collapsed factory. Over the last couple months, kids have continued to go missing all around Pootersville. Golden tickets have been showing up as well. All I know is, as long as there still is air in my lungs, I will find Willy Wonka. You can bet your ass, his chocolatey days are numbered. I have a clue after all. Just last night, I found a golden ticket right outside on my front porch. On the front of the ticket it said, To William Henderclunk. On the back of the ticket were 3 words I've heard before. Words that haunt me to this day. You get nothing.